Then I quit my job. I packed up all my stuff and drove from Tacoma to Vancouver, Washington, put it in my parents' and like 3 weeks later, I was on a plane with a few suitcases and I legit moved to New York.
Welcome back to the SwaySide Connection Podcast. And on today's episode, this person didn't graduate from Spanaway, but they're still Spanaway. And I just wanted to break the mold of like, hey, we're just only having 98 grads, but this is a podcast about growing up in Spanaway in the 90s. So who do you have here with us today?
This is TaNitra.
Welcome to the podcast. What are you sipping on?
So I got my biggie drink here. It's a Jack and Ginger.
Right on. That's a nice little Starbucks cup you have there.
Yeah. Thank you. From Washington, I gotta rock the Starbucks. A lot of folks over here do Dunkin'. I can't get down like that.
How often do you drink Starbucks? Just a random question. I used to drink it every day, pretty much.
Yeah, like it's kind of OD. It's almost every day. And I got my husband on it, and my daughter loves Starbucks. It's crazy.
Man, it's a whole family affair.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's trouble, and that's cool, and that's trouble at the same time. Let's just start from the beginning. When you hear the term Spanaway, what does that make you think of? Or what kind of feelings, thoughts, whatever?
I immediately start smiling. Spanaway, when I watch the other episodes, it's pretty clear that Spanaway is home. Like that's who I am. And that's where I can always come back to in my mind, even not physically, but just mentally. I can always go back there in my mind. Like that's comfort for me,
For sure. That's dope that that it's home for you and it, brings a smile to your face.
Yeah.
When did you come to Spanaway?
So
did you go to
moved to
elementary
Spanaway.
school? Yeah.
I did. So I went to 2 elementary schools.
Okay.
I started out, so my family lived in Tacoma in what is now University Place, but it was a University Place back then. It was Tacoma. Like I had friends who went to Curtis. So in the middle of my 4th grade year, my family moved to Spanaway, and I don't think there's really any rhyme or reason why. I think the place where we were living, it was like a townhouse, and I think that they were just looking for a house to buy, and that's how we ended up in Spanaway. So in the middle of my 4th grade year, I went to Camas Prairie, and that's where I finished out the rest of elementary. So one of the first people that I met was Susan. Like I think we were in the same 4th grade class. Can't even tell you who the teacher was, but I remember Susan. And then throughout elementary school, I was really good friends with Tamisha. Like we were really good friends in elementary school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any guys who else went to Camas Prairie that ended up going to at least Cedar Crest that maybe?
I really couldn't tell you. I don't even remember.
It's funny.
Which is so funny that
good.
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, it's all good.
What's Chris' last name? I want to say Schmidt, but I don't know if that's the right last name.
Chris.
Super tall. What's his last name?
Gibson?
I mean, I remember Chris Gibson, but no, white boy. Chris.
I mean,
he was super tall, like
Schwery?
Yes, Schwery. Yes.
Schwery.
I feel like he went to Camas Prairie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him in forever, but that's another random dude that I would love. He didn't graduate from Spanaway either, because he ended up going to Bethel.
Where?
Yeah, he switched to Bethel his junior or senior year. He might have left the same time. Anyways, I'm moving way ahead to high school, but okay.
Yeah.
So now you're Camas Prairie, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Half of 4th, 5th, 6th grade.
Yeah, half of 4th. Yep.
And then which junior high did you go to?
Well, and then I went to Cedar Crest because I could walk. I didn't take a bus. Like there was a bunch of us that would walk to and from school together. So on my block, you have to get Matt Weathers on. We lived in the same neighborhood. And
Weathers?
He had yes. And he had a younger sister who was like 2 years younger than we were. And my sister was 2 grades younger. So they were like really good friends, his sister and my sister. And so we would always like ride bikes together. I mean, we would play together because I wasn't really playing with Matt because at the time, he was a
Yeah.
boy. And
Yeah.
so, we
Yeah.
played with the girls on the block. And yeah, we lived in the same neighborhood up until I ended up moving. But there was a bunch of us that would walk home from school together when I hit Cedar Crest, like Christy and Chris Gibson. They lived a few streets over from me. Raymond Hopper. Gosh, I feel like there's a whole Alexis. She lived like not too a few streets over. Amber, we would walk
Yeah.
home from
Yep.
school together. Like
Yeah.
there's just a lot of folks over on that side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
GJ brought up a story too about like I think catching the bus in high school, that everybody kind of timed their walk the same to the bus stop that went to Spanaway Lake. So it was just one of those where you knew you were late if you saw certain people at the bus stop already or something like that. And I was like, oh, I can see that. I can see that. And it just
Right.
sucked for DJ because he lived the furthest. He was all the way at the end of his cul-de-sac. But no, that's great. And then after Cedar Crest, well,
After
first,
Cedar Crest.
actually, let's stop here at Cedar Crest real quick, man. What
Okay.
are some of your what are some of your memories from elementary and junior high? So you said that like the first person you met or your first friend was Susan in elementary,
Yeah.
and and obviously
Yeah.
friend, you change friends per grade because you're usually friends with who's in your class. So like elementary school, right? You just see the same 30 kids every day. So you kind of hang out with like every once in a while there's an assembly or something where you'll see the other people in your grade. Oh, and then recess is the other time. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like 80% of your day, you're in your class and stuff. So yeah, bring back any things that were like, what'd you play at recess when you were at Camas Prairie?
I mean, someone brought it up. I think it might have been April. But, I mean, tetherball,
Yeah,
wall
that was like the
ball.
game.
I loved wall ball. I loved wall
Holy
ball.
forgot about wall ball. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I would do a lot of kickball. Kickball I used to love too, but it was mostly between tetherball and wall ball. Like those,
Yeah.
everybody played. Everybody played
Everybody
that.
plays. That one's like
Yeah.
everybody can play. You just stand in line and wait your turn, and then it's on.
Yep. Yep.
Do you have any other do you have some great memories from junior high?
I do. Well, when I was in junior high, so I remember 7th grade, I think he taught science class, Mr. Falk. And I
Yes.
just remember him because he was super tall. He looked like he just looked like a dinosaur. Like he just looked super old. Like at any
Yes.
time, that was going to be his last time teaching.
Yeah. I remember
And
him. I had
I
his class.
remember, yeah, and I remember that's where I met Bobby Martin, and he ended up moving away long before. I don't even think he went to Spanaway. I think he might have gone to Bethel. Oh, he just moved.
Yeah. No. I
And
have
then
not heard that name in forever. And then you unlocked some memories because I just remember that dude now. I'm like trying to think
Yeah.
of who and then boom, it just came in. Yes, Bobby.
Yeah.
I do remember him
So
now.
Bobby Martin and him and rest in peace, R.I.P. Brian Sweeney. Like those two were the dudes that I kicked it with in Mr. Falk's class. Yeah. Yeah. Because they were super goofy, super just silly. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Why are you acting so silly? But they were just super goofy. I mean, we're 7th graders, right? But
Sure.
But those two, they were always together. They were always together.
Yeah.
For a long time. You couldn't see one without seeing the other.
And then
Yeah.
when did we meet? Because we would have been at Cedar Crest. Did we? I think we had
Was it choir?
possibly, or it might have been in another class. But because we were separated, weren't we? Because I remember we had like an all boys choir at least in 8th grade, but
Yeah.
in 9th grade, I think we finally kind of mixed. But
maybe because do you remember? This is another thing that I remember about junior high. Do you remember when it definitely had to be It definitely had to be 9th grade year because my sister was there too. And we did my sister and I, we choreographed the dance to Joyful, Joyful from Sister
1000%.
Act 2.
1000%.
And I don't even know how that even came to be, but
Yes.
what were we doing? But we did. Mr. Holdaway had us sing Joyful, Joyful, and we choreographed, we learned the dance routine. and we were teaching it to everyone, and we performed that.
Yes, it was myself and Caleb Williams that had the rap solos.
The rap, yes,
Yes. So
yes,
then I was the Frank Hay, basically
uh,
the white boy rap
yeah,
part, and then
yeah,
Caleb had
yeah,
the one after that part, and then but yeah, no, I totally remember we did this whole thing, and so and I think James was, I think he had a solo. He had the
yeah. I think
yes,
he did too. Couldn't tell you
yeah,
what it was, but
yeah, he
that
had
sounds familiar.
the Tevin Campbell sounding guy. He had that solo, I
Oh
think.
yeah, that City High guy.
Yes. City High guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That
yeah, yeah,
dude.
yeah,
So
yeah.
James had, man, I wonder if somebody has that video because that would be hilarious. I mean,
Yo,
it's
that'll be
obviously on
dope.
VHS. Oh, that would be hilarious. Yeah. I mean, it's circa 1994. So, wow. So
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
31-year-old video that's out there of us doing
yeah. Crazy,
Sister Act 2, Joyful,
crazy.
Joyful. Yeah,
Yep, yeah.
that would be amazing to see.
And yeah, and then I mean, I also did drill team. Like April and I did drill team. So when she was talking about the Cedar Crest like leotard,
The
yeah,
shiny.
the shiny, like it was super. It was just like you saw the girls who were developed, and then you
Yeah,
see
that
me
was
who's
kind
like
of,
thick thin a twig, flat
yeah.
in the front, flat in the back. Like it was just like it was
And
a
administration
horrible. It
is
was
like,
a
oh yeah, yeah.
horrible.
Administration's like, oh yeah, this is okay for us to parade our
Right,
eighth graders around like this.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were. Yeah, I did drill team. Yeah, at Cedar Crest too.
So
Yep.
you did you play any sports at all?
Listen, I tried to
Yeah,
do
okay.
track like 1 year, one time, because I don't know if you remember this. I feel like this goes back to me growing up and what is now, not growing up, but going back to where I used to live, like what is now University Place,
University.
right? Because I still had some friends that I kept in contact with once I moved to Spanaway. And I apologize now. I remember apologizing then, but I definitely apologize now to you again online, because do you remember that I hooked you up or set you up with my friend Terry? Do you
Yeah,
remember?
yeah. Was that how I met her?
Yes, yes. It,
Yeah,
it was
I took
at a
her
track
to
meet.
yes. I didn't play any sports in junior high. I didn't play football, basketball. Literally,
Get at
the
the
one
track.
time that was it. Out of all the sports in junior high, out of all the sport, and I just have this random track stories because he ended up being my football coach at Spanaway Lake. But so you remember Coach Wright, right? That if you ran
Yeah,
track,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
like the first 2 weeks of track, he didn't know my name. And if he did, no, he didn't know my name. But I would wear red every day. So like for the first 2 weeks of practice, he would just call me Red. Hey, Red. And I swear, and for like which is funny because I went to Spanaway Lake and then he eventually was the defensive coordinator. And that's all, I only played defense. And so it was so funny because, we ended up having this tight relationship. But, the first 2 weeks of track that ninth grade year, which was the only time I ever played any sport at Cedar Crest was,
Wow.
yes. Yeah. I didn't realize that's how I met Terry. Yeah. Cause I ended up taking
Yeah,
her to the ninth grade dance actually.
that's right. You did. Yeah, because she was doing track too, and we both saw each other. And I hadn't, like, she was one of the ones that I hadn't, like, I had lost contact with her once I moved, but we saw each other and instantly we remembered each other because we used to hang out a lot when I was still living on that side of town.
Yes.
And after we had reconnected at that track meet, like I remember taking the bus a few times to go and visit her and see some of my old friends that I used to spend time with. Yeah.
Took a
But yeah,
Pierce
that's how you
County
ended up
bus.
meeting Terry. I
Took,
did. I don't even know. I don't even know why my parents let me do that, but I did. It was only a couple of times, but
yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's all good.
Uh-huh.
Randomly, I think Tim ran into her like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago because I have this random picture with him and her that he had just sent me randomly. Yeah. Like, yeah, I think it was like
Wait,
2099 or
Tim
something.
Armitage?
Yes. Yes. He ran into her
That's
somewhere
so
random.
that's super random.
Super. That's, hey, SwaySide Connections. That's That's how it
Yo,
works.
here's something else random.
It might be 0% uploading. So it'll all
Oh,
upload
okay.
after. It might be the
Got it.
uploading.
Okay.
Yeah. And then even
Okay.
if like,
I thought that might be what it is, but
yeah. And then even if it gets like blurry too, like don't worry because people were like, you're really blurry on my end. With Riverside, it downloads to your computer or your phone, whatever you're using. And then at the end, it's uploading to the internet. So,
gotcha.
but
Okay.
I believe you're all good because it would kind of, it would warn me, TaNitra's not a record because I've had it happen before where other people have like completely cut off. I've kind of gone through
Okay.
almost all the like thing. I've had my computer shut off halfway through. I've had other people shut
Oh,
off.
wow.
No, we're good. Speaking of Riverside, have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Well, Riverside's the best tool simply because, guys, I'm out here in a developing country with ghetto internet. And you can see if you've been following this podcast, go back to episode 1 where I had James on. I didn't know what I was doing. As the episodes continue on, I've progressed. In the description, I have a link. They're not even sponsoring this, but I am an affiliate, so I will get a commission if you go ahead and click on the link. I think you get 2 hours of free podcasting time just to try out the product. Something worth considering, especially if you're thinking about starting a podcast. And if you are, hit me up. Let me know. I'd love to help out. All right, back to your scheduled program. Okay. I had not realized, though, that that's how I met Terry because I didn't realize
Yeah, and you
that
were
was so both of us.
you
So
were
you didn't do it.
so you were so pissed with me because you're like, why did you
What?
introduce me to Terry? She's the worst. Yeah.
No,
But you
you
were
know
so
what?
upset.
That's
You were
literally just me
upset with
being,
me.
uh, that's just me being dramatic. That's
I
that's
mean,
all.
you were really upset. I mean, we were still cool, but like you were like,
Yeah.
yo, I wish you would have never introduced her to me. And I was like, my bad.
Yeah. These are all like junior high, which is like less, I feel like they have even less weight than high school relationships. So it's just like, dude,
Right. Right.
and that I'm 1,000%, I was super dramatic. That's literally all it was. Cause it's like, I'm trying to think. Yeah. I was just blaming other people for just being dramatic like that. Cause yeah, no, I think we're friends on Facebook. We're cool, and yeah, it's not like I
I'm
like
not even
keeping,
friends with her on Facebook, and you're friends with her on
yeah,
Facebook?
yeah. And
Get
well,
out
that's
of
why it's
here.
funny. Well, that's why it's funny that Tim sent me a random picture, cause I probably haven't seen her in at least 20 years, but I know that we're like friends on Facebook and then which is funny too. And that's why it's like, you can be friends with people on Facebook and never see them and never run into them or
Right.
anything.
Right.
But when Tim sent me that picture, I was just like, that's a random like meetup or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so this is a random picture you're sending me. No, but it's funny you brought up Mr. Holloway. He was probably my favorite teacher at Cedar Crest. I just love choir.
I mean, I did. I love choir too. And between him and Mr. Fogg, like I don't remember a whole lot of teachers just in general.
Yeah.
And I
I mean, we're
think
going
he was
30
one that I
plus.
remember. Right. I do remember Dr. Hunter, and I think he might have been like English, but
Yes,
he was super
of
like
course.
military, old dude, bald.
Yes,
Like
I
I
remember
remember
Dr.
Dr.
Hunter
Hunter.
clearly. Yeah, that was
Oh,
another teacher that,
and now that's coming back, I remember Mr. Brave. Do you remember Mr. Brave?
oh
He was
yeah,
Native American,
yep,
and I remember one of his classes. I think we had like what was it, like an annex or a trailer like out on
yes,
on the property.
yep.
Yeah,
It
I don't
was like
remember what
wood
he
shop.
taught.
I think it was wood shop or
Yeah, and you yeah. Well, I
yeah,
remember making the gumball machine in wood shop. Do you remember
yes.
making that?
I didn't make that. I
I
think
think
I
I
made
think it's
like
still in my
something
parents'
else.
garage somewhere.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
remember
that's
making a
tight.
gumball machine in wood shop because
I
it
made
legit worked.
something. That's tight. Yeah, I didn't make anything that's way more complicated than anything I made. I think I made like a chessboard, like something super like way more simple than that. But yeah, because I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
You brought up all these teachers that I totally forgot. I totally forgot about Dr. Hunter. I loved his class too. So then after junior high, real quick, the trips. I do remember choir trips. Do you remember going on any of those?
Barely. So I do remember jazz choir because you remember we had those silky, they were like,
Yes.
the material was like, it was kind of like silk, but not really like silk.
Yes. Like fake
And
silk.
so jazz choir, I remember us going to Gresham, Oregon for jazz festival concerts, and we would
Yes.
compete.
I did
And the
not go on
only
that one, but
reason
yes.
why I remember
Yeah.
that, the only reason I remember that is because there's a photo that's in a box somewhere at my parents' house. Um, but later on, when we get to me moving, like when I passed Gresham, Oregon, I
It
was like,
unlocked a
oh,
memory.
I've been here before. Yeah, totally
Yes.
unlocked my memory. It really did. It really did.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. You don't remember going to Vancouver our senior year? Or sorry, our ninth grade year?
I think I do.
We went to
Yeah, because
Vancouver and then we went to
who
like,
was I with? Because it was raining. It was raining with the day that we were
yes.
at the amusement park.
Yeah, thank you.
It was
Yes.
cold and it
That's
was wet and it was raining.
we went to the amusement park, the big amusement park there, and you're right, it was raining.
Yes,
So
yes.
because I remember James and Greg being there, and then James's mom was one of the what are they called, where they come with the students
Oh, the
to
chaperone?
the. Yes, thank you. Sorry, James's mom was one of the chaperones on that trip. Yeah, so I just remember, and we were, yeah, I
So
just remember
hold
Vancouver.
up, time out.
Yeah,
So let me tell you. So James's mom,
yes,
she used to do my hair. Yeah, yeah. James's mom, Miss Antoinette, Miss Tony, she was called the hair doctor, and she did a lot of hair when I was living there. I had two sisters. My parents had three girls, and like my mom was always doing our hair. At times, she was like, "Look, I'm tired. We're just gonna go to Miss Tony. She's gonna braid up your hair." And so yeah, so I would go to Jamie's mom. Like she would do my hair sometimes, and my sister's hair, and put braids in it and extensions and all this crazy stuff. Yeah.
that's tight. That's tight. I didn't even realize that. I love like all these
Hmm.
memories are being unlocked and just
Yeah.
little tidbits like that. You brought up your two sisters. What was that like in the house with your siblings and stuff, like growing up in Spanaway?
I mean, look, I felt like everyone knew that I had sisters. Like it was just three girls, right? My parents and three girls. So, it was always the blonde girls for forever. And the sister that's right under me, Elena, we're 19 months apart. So we were in elementary school together for a while. And then we also, when I was in ninth grade, she was in seventh grade. So like, her friends knew me, my friends knew her, because we were just close in age like that. And so grade wise, folks, folks knew who she was. Even there was, a couple years ago, because I talk to my sisters all the time. Elena will call me up and shout out Lil Lane, Young Leash. But my sister, Lane will call me and she'll say, so I was taking my daughter to this birthday party and I was introducing myself to the parents and I said my name and someone from the back of the room is like, Elena, and it was Stickle.
Well, no way.
Randomly at a kid's birthday party. And then there was another time where she called me up and said,
How long ago
yeah,
was this?
so this was maybe a couple years ago. It was a couple
Wow,
years ago.
recent. My
Yeah.
goodness.
And this next story is somewhat recent. I feel like this is within the last couple of years.
Dude, I'm here for all of it.
Wherever my sister goes. So, because my sister's a teacher and she lives, her and her husband and their family, they live in, and so she said, I had a parent come up to me and he said, you look really familiar. Are you related to TaNitra? And she said, yeah, that's my older sister. And he said, I don't know if you remember me. I don't know if she'll remember me, but my name is Randy. It was Randy Panotis. And I was like, of course I remember. Crazy random. I don't know where Randy lives now or where he
He'll
lived
be
a
on the
couple,
show.
but I think,
He'll be on the show. You'll find out because he'll be on.
but I'm just like, she was like, yeah, one of the parents saw me, came up. So random. So
So
random.
random. Love
Yeah.
these. Hey, that's that SwaySide Connection. It's like, that's crazy. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
These stories are amazing because they're like recent. That's what's surprising is like
Right.
recent, like, because we're going to get to when you leave Spanaway. And so I guess this is a good time to bring that up. So it's high school now.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I did sophomore year at Spanaway Lake. Yo, on the real, I felt like I got cheated. I remember I'm 16, did my sophomore year at Spanaway Lake, loved it. And I did not want to leave. My dad, the company that he was working for, he had an opportunity to like get promoted and with that promotion came a move. He had to relocate, right? So he was just like, we're moving to Vancouver, Washington. And I was like, Vancouver, Washington? I didn't even know there was a Vancouver, Washington. I knew there was Vancouver, Canada, right? But had no idea that there was a Vancouver, Washington. I begged my parents because there were some really good family friends of ours who were like, if your parents let you, you can stay with us and finish out your last 2 years of high school with us so you can stay.
Yes.
Parents weren't having that. They're like, no, you're our kid. You're going with us.
Yeah.
It got to the point where I literally, so my birthday is in May. And so near the end of my sophomore year, when I turned 16, I was like, I took driving lessons with Mr. Best, I think, because I took driving school. Yeah, I took driving school. Yeah. I did it over the summer with Mr. Best. Yeah. Yeah. As a summer class.
So you did it over the summer. Okay. Because I was like, some people got to take it during school as like a period during their school period or during their.
No, I did it. Yeah, I did it after my sophomore year. So yeah, so that summer, the summer after my sophomore year, I took driving school and I was like, I'm getting my license. I'm getting my license in Spanaway. Like, I'm not getting my license in this other place that I'm moving to. And legit, Heinz, like I went, I took the test, I got my license, and within the next few days, we moved.
Like,
we moved. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so I finished. So we moved to Vancouver, Washington, 15 minutes from the Oregon state line, right? Yeah. And I start my junior year at some school where I don't know anyone, right? These folks have been together since junior high, some of them since elementary. And I'm looking around and I legit am like, what am I doing here? And I felt like it was something out of one of those like teen rom-com movies where like you're in the cafeteria and you see your jock. It's almost like you see your white jocks in one place. You see the black jocks on another table. You see, the cheerleaders. You see the preppy people. You see it seemed like everyone was so like segregated. Like they just were in their own spaces. And I'm sure it's more like built up in my mind because I didn't know anyone. But it definitely wasn't as diverse as Spanaway. Moving to Vancouver absolutely wasn't as diverse.
Really?
But I mean, I can't say
what was
that
the breakdown. What was the breakdown, just guesstimate wise? I mean, doesn't have to be. What did it feel like? Because I mean, obviously, these numbers are not going to be like 100, and you're going off of memories from 30 years ago.
You're right. Yeah. Definitely, majority was white. If I had to put percentages to it, I would definitely say like 70% white. I would probably say 70% white, probably maybe 20%, maybe more like 15% black. And then maybe the remainder was like Asian or other.
Other, yep.
But it was predominantly white. It just was.
Yeah.
And
what was the name of your school? Which school?
Evergreen High School.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, Evergreen High School.
That's crazy because there's two Evergreen High Schools in Washington. Yeah, because there's another one in South Seattle. Yeah.
I was just about to say in Seattle, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Evergreen High School. Yep.
In Vancouver. Okay.
And so that's where I graduated from. And to tell you how much like I wanted to keep Spanaway a part of me. So this might be where you cut to the picture. Yeah, cut to the picture of.
Okay. Yeah, it's all good.
This, I believe that this was I think it was my junior prom or senior prom. I don't remember which one.
Can't remember.
But I refused to go to prom with someone from Vancouver. I was like, no, I'm Spanaway through and through. I need to represent. So I feel like it might have been junior prom because I felt like it wasn't so far removed from when I had moved because I felt like there were still folks from Spanaway that I was keeping in contact with, and Sean was one of
Yeah.
them. But he legit came down. He came down.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Shout out to
stayed.
Sean.
Yeah, yo, homie was a trooper. Like
Yeah, that's a
he made it
trek.
happen. Yeah, he made it happen. He stayed at my family's house. Like we put him up, and he came to my junior prom. I believe it was junior prom.
That's
Yeah,
dope.
yeah. He
That's
was
dope.
like yeah. I'll come to you. I'll come to your prom. I'll be your date. And yeah, he made it happen. So
Hey,
thank
that's
you,
crazy
Sean.
to do that without cell phones.
Yo,
No,
I
I'm
was writing
being
a lot
dead
of
serious.
letters.
That's that's amazing to do that without cell phones back then. So it's
Yeah.
like, yo, that's crazy. I mean, while we're at the pictures now, let's see here.
Yeah. I have no
Yeah,
idea like what is happening and why we have those sunglasses, but this definitely is elementary school.
elementary
I
school. So
just
this
I don't
is
know what's
Camas
happening.
Prairie.
This is Camas Prairie. Yeah, this is
That's dope.
West Coral that's next to
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
that's probably the only person that I can kind of recognize. Everybody
Yeah, I
else,
feel like the
I'm not
girl
quite
at the
sure.
very top with the dark brown hair, I feel like that's
Okay.
Chanda.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the only two that like the other faces are familiar, but I couldn't tell you their name. And let me tell you, these pictures that you got from me while you're pulling up the next one, like all my stuff is still at my parents' house in Washington. And obviously I don't live there, but
Yeah.
Christmas, we have this kind of tradition where since I moved to the East Coast, every other year we switch off who's going to host for Christmas. And so, yeah, so one year my family will go to Washington. The next year, all my family, like my sisters and their families and my parents, they'll come to me in New York. And so,
Love a New York Christmas, by the way.
yeah, yeah. So we've been doing that since 2016. We've been switching off like that.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And so so the years where I've gone
That's
back to
dope.
Washington for Christmas, this last time that it happened, my parents were like, look, it was telling me, my sisters, y'all need to go through these photos. We don't want them anymore. Like take whatever photos you want. And I came, and this is where some of these came up. And I was like, I don't even remember this. Obviously my parents were there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is us playing the recorder. It is, I feel like it's like it's like a rite of passage to play the recorder when you're in elementary school. Legit, my daughter is in third grade and she just got her recorder like a month ago and she's playing the recorder now.
Wow.
So it's just,
It is a rite of passage.
that's just
I
what you
remember
do.
playing.
That's the
Yeah.
instrument you play in elementary school. You play the recorder.
So is that a nationwide thing where you have these kids all over the country playing the recorder everywhere?
It
'Cause I
has to be
remember.
some type of requirement in elementary because they're doing it here in New York. I mean, she's playing the recorder, so
See, that's
it's
cool that
gotta be.
that's dope. Yeah. I mean, something so random all the way on the East Coast that
Yeah.
they're doing the same thing that we did when we were that age. I still can't believe that's a trip.
I know. I feel like this was classic
It's a dope picture.
Spanaway in the
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
you know what? When I was trying to pull out some of these pictures and found them, my daughter legit said to me, Mommy, how come you guys aren't smiling in all your photos? You guys look mad. Why are you not? And I was like, girl, if
That's
you
how we do it.
only knew, like, you had to mean mug, right? Like
That's how we
that's
do
what
it.
you did.
Plus, it was
You
like
had
the
to look
90s.
hard.
Yeah,
Right.
it was, all
Right.
of that combined. Spanaway in the 90s, you kind of had to look kind of hard, So
Yeah. Yeah. And
this is a dope
she's just like,
picture.
I don't understand. But I had to put that in there because I was like, for those that know me and my sisters, it's just like, those are
Yeah,
the girls. Like, that's it. That's it.
so dope.
Yeah.
And then, so who's who? And then what ages do you think you guys are?
So I have the vest on, the little green vest with the white shirt underneath and the
You're
skirt.
the oldest.
So I'm the oldest, probably. I mean, it's probably 7th or 8th grade. So I'm probably like 14, 15, maybe around there. And then on the opposite end is Elena. She's the one that's 19 months younger than me. So if I'm 15, these, 13, almost going to be 14. And
I think
then in the
15 you
middle is
would
my,
already be, I think 15 you would already be at Spanaway. I think you might be
okay, so I was
younger than that.
probably 13 or 14. Okay, so I was probably
Yeah.
13 or 14. And then she's just a year and a half under me.
So
And
she would have been
then,
like 12 or 11.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the middle is my baby sister, and we're 5 years apart. So if I'm 13, she was what, 8? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. I love like a solid piece like that. Like so good. So good.
Crazy.
And this is thanks to DJ. Thank you, DJ, for having this picture ready. Because I mean, you can see me and DJ up here. We've already kind of,
Yes.
but then who do we have
Oh,
here?
most likely to B and
Yep.
J, Jennifer Olger. Wow, yo.
Yes.
That's wild.
Beautiful.
That's so wild.
Beautiful. 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 So this is 9th grade. I like how they did for 9th grade. They were just like, hey, we're just going to give 2 of these awards away to everybody. So it's cool. Like there's like hella of us all in all these pictures, right?
Right.
So,
they're like 2 girls, 2 guys. We're doing it.
See,
we're doing
even
it.
speaking of Matt Weathers, he's down here.
Yo, I love that dude.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you the last time that I've seen him. But
I hope he comes on.
when I hope he does too. When I would love to know what he's doing now. And for real, like growing up on our block in our neighborhood, I mean, I loved his family. I loved his parents. They were so great. They were so great.
Yeah.
And I know his mom has
That's
since
dope.
passed, but
yeah,
he had a great family. He
and
really
then
did.
this is the most recent picture. And this was from 2000. This is from 2011. Yeah. Just some Cedar Crest people, some old
Wow.
Spanaway heads.
Wow.
So you took us to this restaurant here. Where was this place?
Yo,
Do you remember where that?
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's hard to remember.
No,
Hey, do you remember
but
the
I
exact
love
restaurant we were
this.
at 14 years ago? Yeah.
I love this. Yo, I forgot that you guys came. Because Heinz, I
Yeah.
remember you came just was it last year?
Yeah,
that you
16
came?
months
And
ago.
we went, yo,
You're-
I forgot all about
we had
this.
we had a quick lunch. Yeah, like 16. Yeah, it was like 16 months ago ish.
Yeah.
And we had a
Yeah.
just quick, like way shorter than the conversation we're having today. This is why I love doing these too.
Absolutely.
It's like, dude, you can
Absolutely.
like sit down, dig in, and really like we're going in people's pasts and like digging up old
Yeah.
Spanaway memories. So yeah,
Yo,
'cause I
that's
think
what's up. I have no idea where we are.
yeah, I mean, I'm wearing a sweater vest. It's just it's no,
Yo,
that was probably
yeah, you
one
don't
of
even
the
wear the sweater vest. Tim's got it like a little zip up shirt. Like, y'all fancy.
yeah. We're just trying to fit in New York, and so that's why I'm glad I dug this up from the interwebs to find this. So
Me too.
yeah, that
I
was
love this. I love this.
some good old Cedar Crest people, So
Yeah, absolutely.
hilarious,
Oh, man.
hilarious.
Oh, man.
So it's funny because you've brought up the fact, and then people that see the thumbnail they'll see the NYC in the thumbnail. Because so when they click on it, they're like, "Hey, can you get to the part where New York City comes in?" So, and I'm like, "Hey, just take your time. There's lots of years we're going through right here. So we just got through high school. So you know what I mean? And because there's a lot of you have a very unique relationship with Spanaway, because I didn't even know this until you said it in passing to me, and I was like, "What?" So, I'll let you kind of continue. You go through your evergreen junior and senior. Man, that's got to be tough, because like I couldn't imagine leaving Spanaway, knowing people for 6, 7, 8 years, and then leaving for my last 2. Because like that kind of happened to me. My parents left senior year. They left February of senior year. So I only had like 4 months left. So it didn't make sense for me to leave, senior
Right.
year, 4 months left, and then to just finish at a random school with literally I don't know, maybe one person at some random school, right? So didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to have basically like a family adopt me for my senior year. And it was amazing, amazing. So, but for you, gosh, I could not imagine. And then, because,
Yeah.
you go through your sophomore year and that junior and senior year is like, okay, now you're upperclassmen. You're not at the bottom of the barrel because the lowest grade was sophomores. So it's like, man, you did your
Yeah.
time, as a sophomore and you had fun as a sophomore. So, because, some people are,
Yeah.
it gets funner as you get older and you become upperclassmen. Tell me what that was like those last 2 years. And like, did you do like activities and
I
any like
did.
extracurriculars?
I did. I actually, and it's so funny because I can't remember in what episode you brought it up. By the way, I am obsessed with this podcast. I'm literally obsessed. I have
Thank you.
seen every single one, and legit, my husband is like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm watching Heinz's podcast," and he was like, "What is it about?" I'm like, "Yo, don't even worry about it. It wouldn't make any sense to you, but literally, it's just interviews with people that I used to know, that I used to
hate
go to
when people
school
call
with."
it I hate when people call it Heinz's podcast. This is the 90s Spanaway podcast because that's what it is.
Okay, you can call it whatever you want, but it will forever be Heinz's podcast. Until you get another host who's doing the show, it's going to be Heinz's podcast. All
Hey, I'm
right.
going to have guest hosts. I
So,
need more guest hosts. So yeah, but
so all that to say, I'm obsessed. I love
thank
what
you.
you're doing. I think it's absolutely
Thank you.
amazing and fantastic, and it does make me feel. I get nostalgic about it all, and it makes me feel not so far away.
That's dope.
It's very oddly enough, like just I finished watching your interview with Bree. I think yesterday she was the first one that you had on your show that I didn't really know that well. Everyone else I knew and had
Yeah.
spent time with, but she was one that I didn't know that well, and we actually have a few things in common as far as when she talked about her college years, because we had some similar stuff that I could relate to. But all that to say, don't even remember where I was going with that.
No, I
When
love it.
my last 2 years
I
of
think,
high school.
yes. Yeah.
No, go.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Hey, as
Okay.
you guys notice, I interrupt my guests a lot and because I love to talk. And so that's like the cool thing about being a podcast host is you definitely want somebody to talk. But then if they're hosting and interviewing people, they need to shut up sometimes and just let the people talk. And I'm trying to get better, guys. I'm sorry. We're only on episode 7 right now. So, hey, this is just the beginning. There's going to be a lot of you that want to come on the podcast. And we're going to try to get as many people on. But yeah, I'm trying to get better. So, but no, go ahead. I love it. I'm so thankful for you, watching and now being a part of it. So,
Absolutely. I mean, I clicked subscribe, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know what that means really, because I don't. When I
don't know
watch YouTube, it's
what
really
means.
when I click subscribe, like I don't
But yeah,
know
yeah.
what that's really meaning for me, just because I'm not really on YouTube like that. I use it when I need to do like how-to videos on certain things, but I'm not constantly on YouTube. So when you were like hit subscribe, I was like, I'm gonna hit subscribe. I don't really
Yeah.
know what that's meaning, but I'm gonna do it. So
You're helping the podcast and you're helping the channel. So yeah, by doing that. And I think there's
perfect,
a lot of us,
perfect.
I mean, so that's kind of why I wanted to do this is kind of bring awareness to YouTube. I want more of us to use it. I think if you post on other social medias outside of TikTok, like there's no real path to monetization. But if you're on YouTube, like, and you get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours watched, then they'll pay you for continuing to post on YouTube. So it's like, well, I'm going to stop posting on Facebook
Do
because
that.
everything people post on Facebook and Instagram, they can just turn that into a YouTube video. Even if it's only 2 minutes, like, hey, I went to my kid's basketball game. Like, okay, just record 2 minutes and then you could put background music and then you don't even have to talk. You can just record it and then post it on your YouTube. And then, you get enough people to follow you. I'm a strong proponent for people between 40 and 50. Cause I know Ralph was like, man, we're not millennials. I'm like, okay, my bad. I didn't mean that, you know. but I do want to be specific. People between 40 and 50. So if you call us, Generation X or whatever, I like the term Zillennials. But if you're between 40 and 50, I think there's a major gap in YouTube for people that our age that are creating content. And I think there should be more of us because I think we are one of the funniest generations there is. And I also think that because I get the jokes from that we would remember, from the times that we grew up because right. So like one of the things I notice is when people say tape, oh yeah, we're going to tape that later today. They really mean record. It's like, because nobody uses tape anymore. Right. So I hear it all the time. It like sticks out, but it's like one of those things that we would get. And like for me, it just kind of, so there's like all these like little jokes that our generation has locked in that I want to see more of on YouTube. And then it's also just another way to kind of keep track of like what people are doing. So I just think YouTube, and then this podcast specifically is just Facebook long form, and it just, people can watch what we are doing and how you're doing, and, and they come and go as they please, but it's different than just seeing a picture or even just like a 10-second video or a bunch of pictures. Like we can go deeper with the language, with English, just in having a conversation and just in like sitting in, because, we had lunch and we're eating at the same time, and we had a 30-minute like thing. And so it's like trying to, convey, hey, I haven't seen you in like 10 years. And so let's do 10 years of catching up in the 30-minute and we're eating this, sit back, relax. People are having drinks, somebody might be making dinner right now, because of what's tight about these are also pretty evergreen because we're talking about the past, like the things that we're talking about, like you growing up, in Spanaway, like those things aren't going to change. So it's not like, it's, maybe what we're like, or even us visiting you in 2011, like that's not going to change. We still did it. So like these things kind of last forever. Somebody's going to watch this in 2026, in 2027, because this is going to be on the page, and it's just going to be like, oh yeah, let's go back and see what, TaNitra's experience in Spanaway was, and so I encourage, I know I'm kind of preaching a sermon right here, but I do encourage everybody to start a YouTube channel and yeah, just be creative. You don't even have to be on camera. You could create any type of videos you want. And yeah, I just think it's, and it's been fun so far. So, and I'm willing to help anybody that wants to get started, especially if they're our age group. Okay, I'm done. Sorry. What were we talking about again?
Yeah. So you had just asked me what my last 2 years of high school were like at a different high school. Yeah. And I was involved in some activities. So I did dance team, and it was a competition dance team. So we traveled. We mostly hit up competitions in Oregon just because it was so close, right? So we did a lot of competitions in Oregon State, and I also did choir. And oddly enough, I can't remember who it was that you were talking with, but on one of your episodes, you talked about how you guys traveled to San Francisco for choir, and we also went to San Francisco for choir for competition. And I have a feeling that we were probably at the same competition just because that region, like the Northwest region, I don't think that there was too many happening, but I fully believe that we were at the same probably competition in San Francisco. Like I think we were both choir.
I will have to admit, I think that competition, there was only like two other that we had won, but I only think there was like only two other choirs that were in our category. So for us to win, it wasn't like, oh, we beat out like 100 schools, but it still felt good to win something, to be like first, even though we would only beat like two other schools. Because I think it was like specific too, because I think it had to do with dance, because it was just like we're doing a dance choir thing, and not all choirs danced at that competition. Right. So it was just right. So it was, for us, it was just like, I don't know. I just remember thinking, man, this is just the corniest thing ever. But then to win it, it's okay. I guess we were training for the right thing. But it was such a niche category for us to win. I think it wasn't that too tough for us to beat out like two other schools, I think. So just to have some back. I mean, but it's still dope though. No, yeah. It was still dope to be able to. It was like we're from Spanaway, and like we were not good at like team sports or a lot of that stuff. Like So like for us to win anything was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did dance team junior and senior year. And then I also was in choir, and my choir teacher at Evergreen, his name was Mr. Iverson. Really great, really talented. But he knew Mr. Holdaway because when I had told him that I came from Spanaway, but it makes sense, right? Because,
Yes,
they're
same.
doing the same line of work.
They're teachers, they teach choir, so they go to the same,
Yeah.
clinics,
Right.
and
So he totally knew Mr. Holdaway,
that's dope.
which was kind of dope.
Yeah.
And then I worked a lot. I think the one thing, and this is something that like really, really kind of helped to shape me is, I love my parents. I understand, you know, I understand they had to move. I understand them saying, you're not staying behind. We're taking you with us. Like, you're a daughter. You're coming with us. You're part of this family. But to this day, I have told myself that I would never want and will never move my child in the middle of their high school
Wow.
career. Like, it was
Wow.
just it was that formative for me, to where I made good friends my last 2 years there. I still have a few friends that I keep in contact with that I graduated with. But it's just not the same when they have when there's just such these bonds that you form
For
during
sure.
those junior high years that it's just like you just can't change it. It's just
For sure.
you know and so that's something that has definitely stuck with me, that wherever I am in life, depending on what's going on, what's happening, I want my child to be able to finish out their high school career. Like, I will not move them in the middle of it. Like, I
Wow.
just won't. I just won't.
So you said in Vancouver. Did you work at all when you were in Spanaway?
I did. I
Did you
did.
work anywhere?
I
Is this
did.
your first? Oh, yeah. What's your first job?
Yeah. So I worked at a daycare center. That was my first job. I worked there at like 15 and a half. Cause I worked there my sophomore year, and I remember having to choose, cause I had actually at the end of ninth grade year at Cedar Crest, I tried out for a Spanaway Lake step team, high steppers.
Okay.
And,
Yep.
and I remember, and I made it. And then I did like one or two practices, and then I got offered a job, and I decided to make money as opposed to doing an extracurricular activity. So
You and
I couldn't do
April.
both
You and
because
April.
because the
Same
the
thing.
daycare was like past like Bethel, like going towards Graham. And
Wow. That past Bethel is deep. That's all you had to say. Like if
it was
it's
a little bit
past
past
Bethel,
Bethel
it's
because
deep
there was
because
a school
Bethel's
bus.
already deep.
I know there was a school bus. The school bus from Spanaway Lake would take me pretty close there to the daycare, and that's what I did. I worked at the daycare. I worked in the infant room. Years later, I think right after I was done, right after I moved, or right as I was moving and leaving Spanaway to move to Vancouver, Jonah enrolled her daughter at that daycare. Yeah, yeah.
Come on.
So crazy. Yeah.
That is
Yeah. I don't
crazy.
know how long she kept her daughter there, but her daughter did go to that daycare for a little while. And so that's the job that I had when I was in Spanaway. And then when I moved to Vancouver, in high school, I worked at a craft store for 2 years. Me and another really good friend of mine from that high school that I still keep in contact with. We both worked at a craft store.
And then so you worked there all the way to graduation.
Yeah, yeah, yep. And then after I graduated, I don't know what I was doing. I think I was trying to low key rebel for having moved. And so like I didn't do SATs, I didn't take the ACTs, like I wasn't seeing a guidance counselor for like my plans for college, which was so kind of unlike me. Like I always knew that I was going to go to college and do these things, but I wasn't taking the steps to do it.
You were
And
most
then
likely to succeed in 1995, ninth grade. You know,
And then I wasn't going to go to
that's
college
that.
because I was trying to like
Yeah.
rebel against. So,
2 years later.
right, 2 years later, right. So I did go to college. I went to this small Christian, like liberal arts college, which kind of resonated when Bree was talking about going to SPU, because actually one of my really good friends from the new high school that I graduated from, she went to SPU. So they were there at the same time because obviously we're both 98, right? But I went to a Christian liberal arts college in Portland, Oregon, stayed on campus. And like Bree said, when she was like, we had to go to chapel every week. Like I had to go to chapel every week. You know, I had to take Bible classes, and my family was always religious. I was too. And so it wasn't that much of a stretch for me to go there. Did I want to necessarily go there? No, but I hadn't applied to anywhere. I was a part of like the church that my family went to. They had a huge like teen youth group. And so a couple of my friends were going to this liberal arts college. So I went to, and we were roommates. Truly can say that I enjoyed my experience there. Like those are some of my closest friends to this day that I met.
Did you stay on campus the whole time?
I did. All 4 years I stayed on campus.
You never
I
thought
was an
about
RA
commuting?
for a couple of years. I wasn't trying to live at home.
I mean,
No,
it saves money
I
though.
mean,
So that's like,
it does save money, but I wanted to like just do my own thing.
yeah,
I did
1000%.
go home. I did go home like every week or so to do laundry because, you know, I need to do laundry.
So you
And
still
every
kind of,
once in a while,
yeah, so you still,
and if I wanted to
yeah,
get free food every now and then, I would go and raid my parents', kitchen. But
that
I
is a
did live
dope
on
option
campus.
to have.
Yeah, yeah. But I did live on campus all 4 years, and I was an RA like 3 of the years
Wow.
for work. Yeah, yeah. So I did
So they pay
that,
you for being an
and
RA.
yeah, yeah,
That's dope.
yeah,
So then, yeah, that helps out hella. So that they paying you and you're staying there too. So it's
yep.
a great, and you're still close to the class, and you have the option to go home, which is only how far away? 20 minutes, half an hour?
20 minutes.
Oh
My
my,
parents live
20
like,
minutes.
yeah,
That's sick. That's just a dope setup. That's a dope setup to
yeah,
live that close.
20 minutes.
Then you're like, nah, I'm not staying at home. I'm staying over here in this state. I'm
Yeah,
staying in this other state, even
yeah.
though it's only
I'm
20
gonna
minutes
stay in
away. That's so
Oregon.
dope. You
Y'all
had a
gonna
dope
stay in
setup.
Washington. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
nice. Now that I look back on it, yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's
was nice.
crazy setup. And then you have the option to go home and grab some food whenever you literally whenever you want. It could be 2 a.m.,
Yeah,
2 p.m. You can just go home
yeah,
real quick. So, because
yep,
you obviously had a key to get back in your house whenever you wanted to, right? So,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah. So, dude, you could raid the fridge at any point. Oh, man. See, that would have been trouble because Seattle and Tacoma was kind of far. So, when I was, going to UW, but anyways, so you go there for 4 years. That's dope. Sounds like you had a
go there
dope
for four
time. You
years.
had met some dope people.
I did graduate. Brian Sweeney came to my graduation, my college graduation. He did.
That's dope.
He did.
That's dope.
Brian, him and I kept in contact a lot, and there would be times where whenever I would come back to Spanaway to visit, I would make sure to see him. And he did. He came to my college graduation. And Tim Sibley and I went to the same college. We were in undergrad together. He went there.
Did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. So I did choir for a little bit in college. I ended up not continuing doing choir, but I did cheerleading. But when I was there, yeah. And so after graduation, I also worked at Washington Mutual after
Hey, they like
didn't
hiring
stay
Spanaway people.
didn't stay there for very long. Like I still stayed in Portland. Like after graduating, I moved back home for a couple months, and then some of my friends were like, "Hey, we're gonna rent this house. Do you want to come and be like our fourth roommate?" Because it was 4 bedrooms over in Portland. And so I moved to Portland with some college friends and worked at Washington Mutual for just under a year. And then the college that I graduated from, they're like, "Hey, we're looking for an admissions counselor. We think that you would be great at recruiting students to come to college here. Why don't you come be an admissions counselor?" And so that's what I did. I was an admissions counselor for my alma mater for, man, from like 2003 till 2007. And then I got an
I would have loved that
opportunity
job.
to,
I would have loved that job
it was
for
so
my
much
alma
fun.
mater. Oh my God, yeah, I get to stay around campus
I
and just
got I
Oh my
mean,
God, I
I
would have
got to
loved
work on
that.
the campus. I literally traveled because the recruitment area that I had was I had all of Oregon and then I had some parts of Idaho, and they give you a car. So I would travel to all of these college fairs and things like that, and they put you up in the hotels, like they give you, money for the food. So I did, yeah. So I was an admissions counselor and recruited students to go to the college that I went to. And like whenever we would have college visits weekends, I coordinated those college visit weekends where students came to check out the college. It was a fun job. It was super fun. Yeah.
So funny, after you left Spanaway, you kind of had some dope stuff happen to you. Like you found a dope college that you like that was so close to your home, and then you got a dope job with them, and then where you get to go
Yeah.
out and man, that's just like, man, that's a run. That's a great run after
I
leaving
mean, now that I'm
Spanaway.
kind of looking
Damn.
back on, I guess it
You
was.
describing it, I'm like, dude, I'm so jealous. If I could have done that for you, Deb, that would have been I mean, I probably would have still tried to be there today, so, but yeah, it's just, that's like so fun during that time and like being that age. And they give you a car and
Yeah.
you get to see
Yeah.
how beautiful Oregon and Idaho is just driving through. Oh my
Gosh,
God.
it was
Like, are you
awesome.
serious?
It was awesome.
See, like, dude,
And there was times
I try to
where
tell people,
it would require like a couple of us to go and be at like the larger college fairs. I mean, the folks that I was working with, they were all around my age too. We had all just kind of like graduated. They had either graduated a year or two before me. Yeah, it was a great time.
dude,
It
that's
was a
so
great
dope.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
then I ended
fast
up
forward.
moving back.
Oh, no, hey,
I,
perfect
I moved
segue.
back to I moved back to yeah, I moved back 2007. One of my best friends, she told me she went to Lincoln High School, and she was working for this nonprofit organization. It was a
By
national
the way, real
nonprofit
quick, sorry,
organization.
sorry to cut you off, but
No.
I guess Lincoln High School's current principal is an avid fan of this podcast. And so just a shout out to Lincoln's principal. Hey, shout out. So yeah. Okay,
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Since you brought
Yes.
up Lincoln, I was just like, this is so random. But
Yeah.
their principal happens to
Yeah,
listen
because
to this podcast.
she was a cheerleader at Lincoln. So she was like, "Hey," because we also went to college together.
I
She
was
was
gonna say, how did
actually
you meet her? Okay.
so yeah, she
Same
was
year?
actually my sister. No, she's actually my sister's age. She's a couple of years younger than me. She was my sister's age. So my younger sister. So Elena also went to the same college that I did. So we actually were roommates a couple of years because we
Whoa.
overlapped in years. So she went there, and then my best friend she went there, and we weren't best friends till we got to college. And even though she was a couple of years younger, like we just hit it off and clicked. And come to find out, our families knew each other from when we were like 2, 3 years old. Totally random. She came to our house one day. My parents were like, "Who's your family?" Because we know everybody in Tacoma. She was like, "Well, you would know them because, I went through the foster care system." And they're like, "Try us." She said who her family was. And they're like, "Oh, we have pictures of you when you were 2 or 3." And they dug them up. But yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy. But
Easy.
all that to say, after she graduated, she had already moved back to Tacoma. And so I was still living in Portland, and she said, "Hey," she said, "the organization, the nonprofit that I work for, we're looking to hire some people. I think you'd be really good for this job. You should come interview." And I was like, "Oh, well, I wasn't planning, it wasn't in my mind to leave Portland and go back to Tacoma." But I was like, "Okay, I'll interview and see." Got the job. The end of 2007, I moved back to Tacoma. So I'm living in an apartment by like Bates Technical College.
Oh,
Almost kind of,
that's like
yeah.
Lakewood.
Yeah, I was just about to say
Yeah.
almost pretty much Lakewood.
Yeah.
And so I worked there. I worked for this national nonprofit up
Where was
in
that
from
office at?
2000. So the office was actually in it was near downtown Tacoma. It was in the Goodwill building, and they redid their entire building. They renovated and everything. And so It was near downtown Tacoma, and I worked there from 2007 to 2011. And during 2000, and the only reason I stopped working there in 2011 was because I quit my job because I was moving to New York. And the whole reason that I was moving to New York, because in 2010, the organization that I was working for, they do an annual conference in Washington, D.C. every year. And they get all the directors and assistant directors of their programs together for an annual conference in January. And so my friend was the director and I was the assistant director. So we went to this conference in Washington, D.C. And I met this guy at the conference and we kind of like hit it off immediately. And after the conference was over, he had family. He had an uncle that stayed there, that lived in DC. And so he was like, hey, I actually had a friend who lived in DC and I was staying with her. And so I had made sure that like I was still going to be there for some days after the conference was over. And so I was staying behind after the conference was over. He wasn't staying behind, but I basically asked him to stay. I was like, I'm staying for a couple of days after the conference. And he was like, well, I'm not, but I'll change my ticket. So, cause he had taken the train from New York.
Okay. Yeah. And that's an easy trip. That's a super easy trip.
Super easy trip. So he ended up changing his train ticket and we hung out for a couple of days after the conference was over. And like, that was pretty much it. Like after that, he went back to New York. I came back to Tacoma and that was in January of 2010. And we had exchanged numbers and we kept talking like every day. And so by the end of 2010, he had come to Washington to visit me like 3 times that year. I had come to New York to visit him 3 times that year. And after that year in 2010, we were both kind of like, okay, if we're going to try to make this work, one of us has to move. And he had been married before. He was divorced. He had 2 boys.
And he was
so
like, man, I ain't coming to Tacoma.
Right. I was like, I guess it's going to be me because I don't have any kids. Like you can't leave your kids. You're not coming to Tacoma. So in 2011, I quit my job. I packed up all my stuff and drove all my stuff from Tacoma to Vancouver, Washington, put it in my parents'. And like 3 weeks later, I was on a plane with a few suitcases and I legit moved to New York in 2011. Outside of that guy, I knew one other person, longtime family friend. Her family, she and her husband and her 2 kids were living in Harlem. She was like, come stay with me until you find a job. You can help us with the kids because the kids were super young and they both traveled a lot for their job. And so she was like, you can come stay with us. So I legit moved in with them, was living in Harlem.
I think I kind of remember that. I remember you living in Harlem.
Yeah.
In that picture,
and that's when you guys came, right?
Yes, because we came December 2011.
And I had moved there March of 2011.
Oh my gosh. So you were still less than a year there. But I mean,
still,
hey, you
felt like you were a local.
Not to us. Man, we were like, hey, TaNitra knows. Yeah, we didn't know. We were super duper green. Yeah.
So moved to New York City, moved to Harlem, March of 2011, got my job in April, the next month, April of 2011. And still with the same guy. We got married. We have 2 more kids. Like we live outside of the city now, but we both work in the city. Like he still works in Harlem. I still work in the city. But
2015. I'm telling you, 2015 was a dope year because that's
we got married in 2015. You were there in 2015.
I was there. I remind people how dope 2015 was, and I'm just like, guys.
That's right, because James said that he got married in 202015.
In 2015,
and then I think Jay said he got divorced in 2015. I mean,
life-changing
event.
But that's also a positive thing too, because not all marriages are meant to be or happy either. So, I think ultimately that was a good thing, for him. It's like at the time it probably sucked for sure. But I think looking back, I think that might have been a really good thing,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm kind of like, did that really happen? Did I legit pick up and move after meeting some guy at a conference? Like this dude, born and raised in the
That was
Bronx,
dope
shout
though.
out Boogie Down. Um, it's just it's so yo, it's so crazy. It's so crazy, and the fact that there were times where I thought that I was going to be moving back to Washington, that I wasn't going to be staying in New York, because there were times where he was kind of like, do I want to get married again? Do I want to have kids again? And it wasn't a good like breakup and divorce for him. So he was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do that again. What's really happening here?
Yeah.
But it worked out. On the 15th, we got married. We had the wedding out in Washington, and legit half the people couldn't make it because there was like some parade or festival that was going on. Then the Toronto Blue Jays were in town because there's games that were happening, baseball games that were happening. I don't know how many people ended up texting me throughout that weekend and saying after the wedding was over, was apologizing. They're like, I missed your wedding. I got stuck on I-5. People were stuck on I-5 for hours and ended up turning around and going back home.
Where was your
Yeah.
wedding at again? Where was the location?
It was the golf course at Newcastle. And
On
yeah,
the east side.
yeah, yeah. Like folks, I mean, and a lot of these were people coming up from Portland area. They were like,
Yeah.
I'm just stuck on I-5. Like I can't. Traffic's not moving. It's a wrap.
I did
It's a
not
wrap.
realize. Yeah, because I mean,
Me either.
even one terrible accident during that can derail that whole thing. I'm just glad. I think I was coming from Seattle, so I could pick two bridges to pick, or even drive around north or south. So I mean, I had hella ways to get there and avoid traffic.
Right.
But I remember seeing Jermaine at
Yeah.
your wedding, right?
Tuggle. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you
So
know Tuggle?
So his
I think
parents and my parents are
yeah.
best friends. They've been best friends for years through church. Like we grew up going to church together, and we all lived in Tacoma together. But after a while, they actually moved to Puyallup, and then when they came back from Puyallup, that's when they settled in Spanaway. Like they weren't originally in Spanaway, but we've known each other since we were like pretty much in diapers. Our parents have been best
No
friends. And
way.
so yeah. And actually, is that how I ended up attending y'all's high school graduation at PLU? Someone gave me I don't know how I got there. I mean, I remember how I got there, but I don't know if you had a certain number of tickets, or if, because the space was so large, like you could just show up and come.
No, you
But
needed tickets, and the
so I
house
got a
that
ticket from somebody, but I think I was with
yeah.
Jermaine. I think I was with Tuggle. I think I think that's how I ended up showing up, but I was at your guys' graduation. Yeah.
No way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so crazy. So you saw me
I
butcher my
did.
speech then up there. Like I was so nervous too. When I gave that, my right leg was shaking furiously, and I just felt like all the administration that was behind me were just looking at me like, is this dude's leg gonna fall off? But I think the robe was also big enough that you couldn't really see it, but I was
Yeah.
super nervous. Yeah. Oh man. See, I love how
Yeah.
all these people are connected, and like, just so when you came back, I mean, did you check out Spanaway when you came back after that, 10-year difference, or what was,
So I did, what's funny? I went to y'all's 10-year reunion as well.
Yes. Okay. I think I remember that too.
And
Hey man, it's like you
and
didn't really leave, I love it. You were just still
I mean,
in there
I
with us.
I found a way. I found a way to, I found a way to get myself back in.
No, that's dope.
But it's so funny because I can't remember where we were, but Rebecca came up to me and she said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I was like, on the real, like I was really struggling. I was trying to figure it out. And finally she was like, "I'm Rebecca." And it's fun because we didn't go just like I don't remember us overlapping in school, because I think she went to Spanaway junior and senior year. I don't think she went there sophomore year, but we lived on the same block. She lived across from me in Spanaway. but she was either homeschooled or went to like a private school. So she didn't go to Cedar Crest. She didn't, go to elementary school with me, but she lived across from me. And once she said
All
her
those
name, I was
years.
just like, all those years. So, moving back to Tacoma, after living in Portland, and I was only back in Tacoma for maybe 4 years. But during that time, because after going to the 10-year reunion, like I hung out a lot with Rebecca and Katie. Like I didn't hang out with Katie when I was a sophomore, but after the reunion, her and I were kicking it a lot. We would go to crickets a lot. And so I know Darius was doing like his music thing. So I saw Darius a lot at cricket. I think I may have seen Josh a bit at crickets. Like I was just starting to see all these people who I used to go to
Yes.
school with.
Yes.
So it almost felt like a reunion every day
That's so
when I
dope.
was when
Yeah.
I was there, which was nice. And so it was good while it lasted. And then once I moved to New York, it was just New York was
Then you
different.
get
New York was
you get randoms like me that'll randomly come
yeah,
into New because I love New York.
yeah.
I'm
And I
like,
think
yeah.
Tanya,
And so
she came to New York 1 year, so I made sure to meet up with her when she came. I think they were like doing touristy stuff, so she was like in Times Square with some folks, and I was like, yeah, I'll come to Times Square. Like I don't really spend time in Times Square, but I remember I was like, for you, I'll come to Times Square. So I met up with
yeah.
Tanya, and then I've just had family and then like close family friends that have come because a lot of people come to New York, and
Yeah.
once they find out
There's
that I'm
lots of
here,
reasons to come
I'm
to New
like,
York.
yo,
So
let me.
yeah.
I'm like, so yeah, people that come to New York, whenever I know someone's coming to town that I know, I'm like, yo, hit me up. I'll tell you where to
Yeah.
go. Like I'll meet up with you if you need a place to stay. I mean, now I don't live in the city. I live outside the city, but it's literally I'm right on the train line. So I take the train. My husband and I we take the train into the city all the time for work. So
Which
I'm just kind of
line?
like
Which line do you take?
so they have a few different train systems. We use Metro North, which you pay a little bit more money for, but I'm on the New Haven line. So our train ride is right along the river.
Hey, I love that the train takes Apple Pay now. Like you just need to
Yeah.
pull your phone out and is it cheaper if you get one of those tickets though, or is it the same?
So it's the same. I mean, you have to be taking multiple trips in order for it to come out cheaper, and it's usually multiple trips over a certain number of days. Otherwise, it's not really cheaper.
Yeah, because I remember the deal that I had. I mean, it might have been a while, but I think for a week it was like $35 for the week unlimited. Do they
Yeah.
still have something like that?
They do still have something similar like that. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
And so
And
I
they just,
remember being there for around a week and I was like, this is great. And you could take it whenever. And
yeah. Yeah. If you're going to be there
the
for at least
problem
a
is
week,
you don't,
that's worth it.
yes, yeah, right. Because then
And
it's
riding the
perfect.
train a
You
lot
don't,
is
you
worth it.
just, yes, yeah. Because I mean, I loved it. And then the problem is just take an Uber if you're faded, though. If you're drunk, you're faded, you
Yeah.
don't want to be on the subway drunk or
No.
faded. So kind of learned that lesson. I mean, nothing terrible happened to me, but I was scolded after I did that. And I was just like, oh, I didn't realize. You're like, yeah, you're just a sitting duck. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Do you see yourself ever moving away from New York or
I keep trying to get my husband to move. Like, I have enjoyed being in New York. I have visited New York before ever moving here. And I remember telling myself, yo, this is a dope place to like visit, but I would never want to move here. I would never want to move here. And then I ended up, yeah, yeah. And then I ended up moving here. There's so many things that I appreciate about New York, and there's so many things that I love, but I would not be sad if I moved and left New York. Yeah. Yeah.
like one of my goals is to move to New York for at least like a year and have more people come visit us, if I were
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
just have
Yeah.
more Spanaway people come experience the city. Cause I love the city. I love New York. I love all the boroughs. I love, and obviously I have this romantic sort of view of it, just because every time I've gone has been amazing. And especially that 2011 year that was such a fun trip. And we were only there for 4 days, but it was so action packed. But I have this romanticized view of New York. And so that's why it's like hearing you say that, it's like, dang, you want to leave? And, or not that you want to leave, but you'd be okay with leaving. And like, for me, I'm like, oh man, I would love to, but you're right. I don't know if I'd want to spend the rest of my life there, but man, I think definitely a year would love it there to be there for a year, at least.
Yeah,
And then I feel like that
look,
would lead to more years, but
yeah, I
because
feel
you've
like
been
if
there how long now?
man, 14 years.
Wow. Okay. So you have been there for a while.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I remember thinking at least for a good year and a half, maybe 2 years, I was like, yo, this is so surreal. I'm in New York. I live in New York and I lived in the city up until we had our daughter. So she's coming up. She'll be 9 in September. So 9 years I've been outside of the city.
Living, but you go to the
Yeah.
city every day.
But I still
So
go
yeah,
but I still go to the city every day. But and it's definitely different when you live in the city and work in the city than when you just work in the city. Like, yo, that grind is all the way real. It's so real. The hustle is
what do you
real.
mean?
Like,
Oh,
life be life in here. You know what I mean? Like,
okay. Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it's real.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
And so, after a while, I'm tired. Like, from my house and taking the train into the city, door to door is 2 hours. 2 hours,
Whoa.
right? And
Okay.
that's because,
That does not sound.
no, but that's also because of where my office is at, my office. So I do a lot of traveling. I do a lot of traveling to across the boroughs, but my office is located in Queens and I'm kind of like at the end of Queens. So for me, door to door is 2 hours. Yo, after a while, it's like, yo, I'm tired of doing that. 4 hours
Yeah.
total is like, I can't get that time back. I mean, I do a lot of
Yeah.
reading and that's why I watch your podcast when I'm on the train too, when I'm doing that.
That's what's up. Appreciate it.
But yeah, when I first moved to New York, especially living in Harlem, it was amazing. I loved it. I also, I had a boyfriend, but I was also kind of like, I wasn't tied down. I didn't have kids. And similar to what Bree said, it was super easy to go visit. We would road trip. My husband and I, we would road trip all the time because it takes you
Easy.
like 3 hours to get to one state, 4 hours to get to another state. So we would do weekend road trips and we would go to Philly. We would go, to Rhode Island. We've been, all these smaller states here on the East Coast. Super easy and they're beautiful. And being in the city, if you're young, if you're not tied down by anything, like with kids or anything like that, absolutely. Like New York is, I mean, I love it. It was great. But
You're
after a while,
painting
it's
a
kind of like,
dope picture. You're dope. You're painting a dope picture for me, at least. I'm just like, okay, yeah, where do I sign up?
I
I'll be
mean,
there, so
I mean, yeah,
I think it's in,
yeah. I mean, it's one of those experiences. It's like, when would I have ever have said, like, I never would imagine that I would be living in New York. Definitely not for 14 years now. It's just crazy
uh,
to think about how life brought me here and how I ended up here. And it's definitely been a ride. It has definitely
yeah.
been a ride for sure.
No, I think that's why I love your story. Like, I'm just finding out all these things that happened to you along the way to being where you're at right now. So, and I think it's nice to see that, because a lot of people just stay in Washington, and which is cool, and I love Washington,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but I think, man, that perspective of being all the way on the East Coast and, like living all the way out there I think it's so unique. And do you know any other Spanaway people that live in like around you at all?
I mean, I don't, but I kind of wish that I did. I'm putting out the invitation right now. If anyone wants to come to New
Wow.
York, look, I mean, you have a place to stay if you want it. One of the reasons why we bought the house that we bought, and I mean, it's not the biggest place. I'm in our basement right now. and our basement is like, fully completed. And we have 2 bedrooms down here in the basement and a full bathroom down here in our basement. And so when people come to visit, we're like, the whole downstairs can be yours if you want it. Because everything is so expensive nowadays too, that it's like,
For
we
sure.
want people to be able to enjoy their time in the city and not have to pay extra if they don't want to. Like, if you want to go and spend a night in the city, and fine. But if you don't and you want a place to stay, it's a 40-minute ride into Grand Central Station. Like, we go into Grand Central every day for work and then take the subway to wherever else we need to go. And so we're always telling people, if you need a place to stay, our home is open. It really is. I mean, so
I don't know
the
if I want
invitation's
to,
out there, and just,
I don't know if I want to put this out there. I don't know if it's because I'm selfish like that, but this episode might be on here for, years. Obviously this doesn't go
good
forever.
boy.
Yeah. So, I mean, but
There
man,
is an
if you
expiration date.
basically, yeah, and like, but, no, but I think that's, I obviously know who this is for. This is basically for, yeah, but
Yeah.
don't be
Yeah.
weird, people, and
No.
so that's all I got to
No,
say.
please don't
But
be
no,
weird.
that's,
It's not weird.
that's sick because, yeah, I think that's going to be definitely an option for myself. I would love to come over there and hang out
Absolutely.
and like maybe
Yeah.
bring somebody that, some other singles that like Jay, like Jay Nalder or something like that
Yeah.
over, because that would be fun. I think I love my time in New York. Every time I go, like I said, I have a great time there and it's amazing. So yeah. So any other, what was life like? Did your parents come to all your like activities, like growing up?
You know what?
Did they come to
They
choir concerts?
they did. Well, when I was living in Spanaway, my parents went to pretty much everything. When we moved to Vancouver for my dad's new position for his promotion, he started not to be able to make a lot of stuff. And I don't even think I realized it until after he actually lost that job. What ended up happening was maybe a year into the job, the company decided that they wanted to go family owned. And so they let a lot of people go. And my dad was one of those people who ended up losing his job. And I thought that we were going to potentially move back to Spanaway. But at that point, my dad was like, we've been out here for a year. He had made some relationships out there. He was just like, there's not that there wasn't really necessarily anything to go back to, but he was just like, for work, what would I be going back to Spanway for as it relates to work? Like,
Yeah.
and so I remember this clearly because as we have gotten older, he kind of shares a lot of like what was happening during that time. We were still in
Whoa.
high school and young, so
Yeah.
we didn't really know what was going on.
I mean,
But
my parents didn't share a lot of that type of information, like you don't really
yeah,
want to, like stress the whole family out or your kids out,
uh-huh.
and so, but this is good. Like, hey, we're all older now and we're all doing different things. So, hey, here's some behind the scenes
Yeah,
from what was going on in the 90s.
yeah, yeah. But he was just like, he did a year and then he was without a job for like 8 months. But he would tell us never missed a mortgage payment. We never missed a meal. And he just said that he remembered feeling like he was missing out on so much of what we were doing as kids and missing out on our different activities. And he was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And so he was like, losing that job was like the best thing that ever happened. He said, because I was able to be more fully engaged as a father with you guys. Like, he was like, I was just missing a whole bunch of stuff. And I didn't even realize that he wasn't present for
Yeah.
those things, but
They were
he
taking
remembered
his
being,
soul
yeah, yeah.
and then
And
losing
he
that job,
ended
it
up,
kind of gave it back.
it gave it back, and he ended up going back to school and he became a teacher. And so he worked at the school for Washington State School for the Blind, which is in Washington, which is in Vancouver. He worked there, and that's where he ended up retiring, and he loved it. He originally wanted to be a teacher years ago, and he never
Like,
did it. And then losing that job, he went back, got his teaching license, and became a teacher and taught for years until he retired. He maybe retired maybe 4 years ago. Yeah, and he loved it. Absolutely loved it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny how things work out like that, where you take something kind of devastating, you have a family, you get
Uh-huh.
laid off, but then it really leads into like things that make you happier later on. So man, that's other random questions before I let you go. Where were you at for 9/11? How was
So
that day for you?
I remember I was at undergrad. I was in college on the college campus. And I remember I was supposed to be I was on my way to accounting class and I was going through the main area where, it was like the student hangout. It was like the student lounge, student hangout area. And we had a big screen TV. And I remember stopping in my tracks and seeing what was on the TV and just seeing them replaying the planes crashing, and I'm just like, what is going on? What's happening? And everyone just it was like time kind of stood still. Nobody went to class. Everyone just kind of stayed where they were at, and everyone was just glued to the TV. And it was just, it was hard to understand what was happening at the time.
Yeah.
But as things began to unfold, it was just, yeah, I was on college campus and then a bunch of us ended up going out to one of our courtyard areas. And I actually remember because I was at a Christian liberal arts college, just remember a bunch of us were praying. Like it was like the whole
Mm,
campus kind of came together and we were kind of like circling a big courtyard space, and people were just praying, like just praying for the
yeah.
families. It was just, yeah,
It's such a polarizing event
yeah,
and I like that I mean, we're all 21 at the time. So I
yeah,
love this question just because it's like, it was like a total wake up call for something this crazy to happen on American soil. And it's just,
mhm,
and we're 20, we're all 20 to 21. And
yeah,
we're all like, what is going on? So to happen to that in like such a pivotal part in our lives, it's one of those days you'll never forget. We'll never forget that day, like we all remember where you're at. And so, okay, some other sort of fun things. Favorite music back in the day do you have a favorite group, song, artist? It's hard, I know,
So,
because there's a whole wide genre that we can go, but like, you know, what would you say?
I mean, Boyz II Men always. And I know some other folks brought this up, Boyz II Men definitely, but I was also into,
That Boys
there
to
was a
Men
lot of,
2 album.
yo, that will remain. You can't kill that album. That album
Peak.
will forever, yo,
It's the peak of
yeah,
R&B was that album,
it really
I
was.
think.
It really was.
It's the
But I was
best.
also there was also a lot of girl groups. So I remember listening to In Vogue. I had a cassette tape for In
Mm,
Vogue,
there we go.
Escape, SWV, like, and then I did love me some Naughty by Nature too. But the girls groups, I mean, yeah, In Vogue and
Yeah.
Escape, SWV. ugh, I still listen to them now, actually. Yeah,
Love that music. I love that genre. All those groups that you mentioned, like I love, like you play that wherever and I'll like to listen to it because I don't really listen to music at all anymore. I pretty much listen to podcasts. Any regrets that you have from back in the day or if you can go back to your graduation day,
hmm,
what would you tell yourself, when it comes to you knowing what everything that you know now, what kind of conversation would you have with your 18-year-old, or 17-year-old, however old you were, graduation self? What would that conversation look like?
I mean, while I wouldn't want to take away the experience that I had in undergrad, I do wish that I would have like took initiative and really did the work to like take the SATs and apply to colleges just to see what my options really would have been. Because I really felt like I didn't have any options because I didn't apply to any colleges. I think that would be the one thing that I would tell myself. Yeah, is to put
That's
in
dope.
the work for the colleges.
Yeah.
Like see what your options are.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, TaNitra. I know man, it's almost 1 a.m. in New York right now. And so I thank you for staying up this late and dealing with, all of our technical difficulties that we had earlier. But man, I so appreciate you for jumping on the SwaySide Connection podcast. Any last words? you have for our Spanaway folks out there?
No, I mean, I just feel like it was just such an honor to be on the podcast. I love everything that you're doing. I would like to reconnect with folks. I mean, like I said, Spanaway, it will always be a special place for me. Like that's comfort for me. So yeah, thank you
For
for
sure.
having
And I
me.
think, yeah, no, thank you for coming on. I think this podcast will do that job. I think people are going to be like, snap, I remember TaNitra. And so, yeah, I think this will open up some doors and avenues of that nature. So, all right. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.